see completely about the storage part in EC2. So we'll be discussing about EC2 instant storage today in our class. Okay. So what is an EBS volume? So an EBS is uh, like elastic block storage volume. It's a network drive. You can attach it to your instance while you are running. So that means it is something like a network USB card. So you can attach it to your EC2 instance. Okay, for the storage part. Okay, it allows your instance to process data even after their termination. So this is something like the hard disk of your uh, laptop or PC. So the hard disk is used to store all your data in your data. So when if you like shut down your system or restart your system, so still the data in the hard disk remains there only. So similarly, these EBS volumes are also act like hard disks, but they are something like a network hard disks. So they are connected to the EC2 instance in a network. So they can be only be mounted to one instance at a time. So it's simple, like if you take a hard disk, so you can connect it to only one system at a time. So if you want to connect it to the other one, first you need to detach it from the first instance, and then you need to attach it to the other instance. Okay, and they are bound to a specific availability zone. So similarly, we are saying like all the EC2 instances which are EC2 services are bound to region specific, and in that region specific, these EBS volumes are also availability zone specific. So if you want to create a elastic block storage across the availability zones, it is not possible. So if you create a volume EBS volume in AP South 1A, so it can be attached to only the instances which are available in AP South 1A only, same availability zone. Okay, so as I said, you can take them, you can consider them as a network USB stick. So if you want to connect it to an instance, you can connect it, and if you want to take it out of your instance, you can detach it. Okay, so coming to the free tier eligible for EB2 storage, we will be giving 30 GB of free EBS storage of general purpose SSD. So we will see what is general purpose SSD and all in the coming classes. So remember that we'll get 30 GB of free EBS storage when we are using a free tier account. Okay, so EBS volumes. So what is this EBS volume? It is a network drive, as we have discussed earlier. So that is not a physical drive, so that means you cannot see this. So similarly, like your instances, those are how you cannot see your server. Similarly, you cannot see this. Okay, EBS volumes, it uses the network to communicate with the instance, which means there might be a bit latency. So these particular EBS volumes are not directly connected to the servers. Okay, they are connected through network for the server, so there will be a little latency in this EBS volumes. Okay, it can be detached from a EC2 instance and attached to other one very quickly. Okay, so as I said, it's something like a USB stick for your EC2 instance, network USB stick. Okay, so if I have two instances, like instance A and instance B, so I can detach the volume EBS volume from instance A, and I can attach it to instance B, so that I can access all data in the volume in EC2 in second instance B. Okay, and it is locked to an availability zone, and EBS volume is an US East 1A, cannot be attached to US East 1B. So if there is any EBS volumes in one availability zone, they are only bound to that availability zone, so they cannot be used in any other availability zones. Okay, to move a volume across, you first need to take a snapshot of it. Okay, so you cannot move them directly. Okay, so you cannot move a EBS volume from one availability zone to other availability zone, but we have an option called snapshot, so where we can take a snapshot of a particular volume in one availability zone, and you can move the snapshot to and you can create a other volume using the snapshot in other availability zone or other region. Okay, so we'll see about the snapshots also in the coming classes. So for now, remember, So we can take a snapshot is something like a backup image of an EC2 and EBS volume. Okay, have a proficient capacity. Okay, and in size and IOPS you will get a proficient capacity. So you get billed for all the provision capacity. You can increase the capacity of the drive over time. So when you create an EBS volume, you can decide how much GB of size it needs and how much IOPS it needs. So IOPS stands for input and outputs per second. So it mainly gives the write and read speed of a disk. So if the disk have high IOPS, then it will have like high read and write, okay, operation speed. Okay, you can increase the capacity of the drive over time, so you can expand the capacity of the drive instantly. Okay, so let's take an example how it works. So say like we have an two availability zones, US East 1 and US East 1A and 1B. So here in the first availability zone I have an EC2 instance. Okay, so for my EC2 instance I have a so we have a EBS volume attached to it. Okay, so as I said, we can only have one EBS volume that can be attached to an instance at a time. So EBS volume can be attached to only one instance at a time. Okay, so in the second instance we can see there are two EBS volumes. They are attached to again one instance. Okay, so an instance can have any number of EBS volumes, but an EBS volumes at a time can connect to only one instance. Okay, this is the important point. So similarly we have another availability zone. So here we have another instance in this zone, and we have another EBS volume which is specifically created in US East 1B availability zone. So this particular EBS volume can be attached to only this instance which is in US 1B. So if you want to connect this particular EBS volume to another availability zone instance, so it is not possible. So you can connect only to one availability zone where the EBS volume is created. Okay, so here, yes, oh, one thing. You can see my screen now. Okay, so here we have in two availability zones, 1A and 1B. Okay, so here we have two instances. Okay, one is in two instances in US East 1A availability zone, and we have one instance in US 1B availability zone. So here when here we have an EBS volume which is attached to US East 1A. Okay, and we have another instance where we have two EBS volumes. Excuse me, we have two EBS volumes, and these two EBS volumes are connected to this instance. So here we can say, so an instance have any number of EBS volumes, but an EBS volumes at a time can be connected to only one instance. If you come here we have another availability zone. Okay, so here we have another instance where an EBS volume is connected to it. So we cannot connect this particular EBS volume to other availability zone instance because it is created in a particular availability zone. Okay, and if your EBS volume is still created and it can be idle, so that means it cannot, like if it is not connected to any instance also, so it will be preserved there. So we can keep an EBS volume idle without connecting to any instance. Okay, so if you want to connect it, you can connect it, or else you can leave it idle. So this will be stayed like that. Okay, so okay, here, so deletion and termination attributes for this EBS volume. So so EBS controls the EBS behavior when an EC2 instance terminates. So by default the root EBS volume is deleted. So that means here when you create a new instance, okay, So we'll get an option, so delete on termination. So this is enabled by default for the root volume of the EC2 instance when we create it. Okay, so if you are creating any other volumes other than the root volume, for that particular volumes the deletion on termination flag will be disabled. So that means this can control by default all the other attached EBS volumes are not deleted. Okay, so we can see here, and this can be controlled by the AWS console or AWS CLI. So when we create this particular instance and adding these volumes, we can either uncheck this, or after creating the instance also we can uncheck this. We can change the settings and configuration so that if you terminate the instance, still if you want to keep your root volume to be not deleted, then you can uncheck this. Okay, so this can be controlled by the AWS console. So use case is like if you want to still preserve the root volume when the instance is terminated, you can do that. So but remember, like by default when you create an instance, the root volume which is attached to the EC2 instance is by default enabled as delete on terminations. So if you delete a EC2 instance, its root volume will be automatically deleted. So but the other volumes will not be terminated. So we'll see how this EBS volumes looks like in AWS management console. So here I'll share my screen and we are going to our console. So I'll log in as a root account. So here I'm going to EC2 and here I'm going to my instances. So here I have only one instance now. So if I click this, and all the storage part you can see in this storage tab. So if I click on this, see here I have one volume attached to it. Okay, so and it is attached, and if you click on this volume, it will take you to the volumes tab. So here it is the volume which is attached to our EC2 instance. So it is of type GP3. We'll see what is this, and it has 3000 IOPS, that is my 3000 insert and input and outputs per seconds. Okay, so here if you go, so it is created in the availability zone AP South 1A, where our EC2 instance is created. Because it is created along with the EC2 instance, it will be also created in the same availability zone where we are creating our instance. So here we can see it is attached to a particular instance. So it is showing the instance ID. Okay, so if you go here, like we get all the information of this particular volume here. Okay, and you also see this is by default not encrypted. So if you want to encrypt it, by default it's not encrypted, but if you want to encrypt the data in the volume, you can do it while creating the volume. Okay, so here we'll see I'll create another volume here. So here I'll take the general, but here we have different types of volume types. We'll also see about this in our coming classes. I'll give the size as like 2 GB. I just wanted 2 GB size. Here I'm creating it in a particular availability zone, AP South 1A only. Okay, so and I'll create it. So leave this snapshot and all for once. So if you want to encrypt this volume, you can check this encryption, and you can by default select any encryption key to encrypt the data. So for now I'm not encrypting the data, I'm leaving it like this, and I'll create a volume. So I'm giving the name as sample EBS volume, and I'll create a volume here. So here we got it, and it is creating a volume here. So and here see it is still created, and it is not attached to any of the instance, and it is in available state. So it is available to connect to any for any one of the instance. So if you want to connect it to any instance, either you can go here and go to actions and attach volume. You can click on attach volume, and here you can select the instance to which you want to attach the volume. So and attach the volume. So now still it takes some time, and we'll start this. We'll go to instance and start instance, and if you come here, see, you can see here. So when I still till now my instance is in stopped state. So when I started it, see, again it took the two blocks. So that means two volumes. One is of 8 GB, which is my root volume, and 2 GB, which I have created now and attached now. So see, here we have created it on 16th June, so today. And here if you can see the root volume, so the volume which we got it while we creating an instance, so this is called a root volume. So for this there is a flag called delete on termination. This is by default yes. So here we have created a new volume and we attached it to our EC2 instance, and for this the delete on termination is no. So any volume which you attach to your EC2 instance other than the root volume, so for them, like, the default flag will be, for the delete on termination flag will be no. So if you terminate this instance, still you will be able to have this particular volume. So here I'll go and I'll terminate this instance. So terminate this instance, and we'll see what happened. We'll go to our volumes, and here I'll refresh this. Still it is shutting down. It will take some time. So this need to be changed to terminated. So then what happens is, so whenever this, so now it is terminated. So if I go to my volumes here and I refresh this, see, so my 8 GB volume is deleted and my 2 GB volume is still in the list. So and it went from used to available state. So that means now we can attach this particular volume to any other instance. If you launch any other instance, and you can attach it to a particular instance, so that if you have any data in these volumes, so that will not be removed. So you can attach it to other instance and you can access all the data in this particular volume. Okay, so this is all about that EBS okay volumes. Okay, so we're coming to our presentation. So that's how, like, we will create and terminate a volume. So and we can attach it to any instance in the EC2. Okay, so there's another concept called snapshots. So as you know, we seen in the previous classes, previous slides, we said like an EBS volume can be attached to the instance which is in the same availability zone. So we cannot connect to the other instance which is in the other availability zone. Okay, so if you want to move a volume from one availability zone to, and you want to use it in another availability zone, so there is an option called snapshots. So snapshots make a backups of your EBS volumes at a point of time. So it is not necessary to detach the volume to do the snapshot, but it is recommended to detach it. You can copy the snapshot across availability zones and across regions. So here we have one availability zone and we have an EC2 instance, and there's a EBS volume which is connected to an EC2 instance. Okay, so if you want to move this to other availability zone, so what you'll do is you'll take a snapshot. Snapshot is something like a backup. So you'll create an image of this particular EC2 EBS volume, and you can restore it to other availability zone, and you can attach it to other EC2 instance. So either you can create a EBS volume, okay, and you can attach it to the other instance in other availability zone. Okay, so how this EBS snapshot, what are these features of EBS snapshot we need to remember is, so we can move the snapshot to archive tier, so that is 75% cheaper. So say like you have created a snapshot for your EBS volume and you can archive it to a EBS snapshot archive. So that means you can it will be a less price, it will be of less price. So if you keep it in EBS snapshots, it will charge us something more. So if you are not using it for now, and if you can and like you want it but not immediately, you can archive it and you can save a lot of money. Okay, so but when you move it to the EBS snapshot archive, like it will take almost 24 to 72 hours for you to recover it from the archive. Okay, so this is about snapshot archive, and there is other called recycle bin for EBS snapshot. So say like you have like EBS snapshots, and if you have accidentally deleted it, so then you can enable these recycle bins and you can set up rules to retain the deleted snapshot so that you can recover them after an deletion. So specific retention period we can keep is from 1 day to 1 year. So that means like when you delete a snapshot, it will be moved to recycle bin, and it will keep in the recycle bin for the specific retention periods. So if you say I want to keep the deleted snapshots in recycle bin for 1 week, so from the date of the deletion, it will keep this particular snapshot in recycle bin for 1 week. So within this 1 week, if you want, you can restore it back, or else after 1 week, those particular snapshot will be removed from the recycle bin also. So there is other option called fast snapshot restore. So it is full force initialization of snapshot to have no latency on your first use. So if you use this, like when you create a new volume, so it will be created too fast when compared to EBS snapshot archive. Okay, so we'll see how this snapshots work in EC2. So we are going to the browser again. So here I have an instance, this is terminated, I have a volume here. Okay, so if I want to so this particular volume, now it is in AP South 1A, right? So I want to create the same volume in AP South 1B. So what I can do is, first I will do, I'll select this volume and go to actions, and here we have an option called create snapshot. So I'll give a snapshot, my demo PC EBS snapshot. Okay, so by default it is saying like it is not encrypted. So because when we created it, we have not mentioned to encrypt it, so it is also not encrypted. So here I'll create a snapshot. So if you go to snapshots here, so here we can see this particular snapshot is taken. So this for this particular time. So at this particular time we have take this snapshot to this snapshot, and this snapshot ID, we have a snapshot ID, and here if we can get all the information about this, and here it is not encrypted, the volume. So now it is, we have created a snapshot. So if you want to create a new volume, okay, so here we have the volume in same this volume in AP South 1A. So if I want to create the same volume in South 1B, so I have created a snapshot for it. So I'll select this. Now I'll say select it. Now I'll say copy snapshot. So if you say copy snapshot, so it will show you all the regions. So if you want to create a, if you want to copy the snapshot from one region to any other region, you can copy the snapshot and you can use it there. So for now I'm not doing this, and there's another option called create volume from the snapshot. Okay, so if I click this, so here it is asking for me like which volume type you want to copy this, and here now you can see it is showing all my availability zones. So for now this particular snapshot is taken from 1A. If I want to create a volume, okay, with the same snapshot of south 1B, and I'll create this in other availability zone, and I'll add a tag like name AP South 1B snapshot volume. Okay, so here I'll create the volume. So what I have done is I went to the snapshots there. In the actions I click create volume from the snapshot, and here I have an option to select an availability zone, different availability zone. I can create a volume. So that is done. If I go to volumes here, see now, so this is our first, okay, volume from which we have taken a snapshot. So and we have created this particular other volume, okay, and this is created from the particular snapshot. So we got the snapshot ID here, and it is like created in the other availability zone. Okay, so this is one of the important exam point. So so we need to remember a snapshot, an EBS volume cannot be attached to the instance outside it availability zones. If you want to use that particular volume in any other availability zone, you need to take a snapshot of it and create a volume in other availability zone from that particular snapshot. So in this way we can create another replica or another copy of the same EBS volume in other availability zone, but we cannot directly use the particular EBS volume in one availability zone in other availability zone EC2 instances. So this is the main point you need to remember about these snapshots and volumes. Okay, so we have created a volume from the snapshot. So this is all about the snapshot in EBS. Okay, so now we have another concept called AMI. So this AMI is something which we learn, which we heard of while using an EC2 instance. So AMI stands for Amazon Mission Images. Okay, AMIs are a customization of EC2 instances. So you add your own software configurations, operating systems, and monitoring for your EC2 instance. You can create an AMI from your EC2 instance. So AMIs are something which are used for fast boot configuration time, because all your predefined softwares and all are already installed. So AMIs are built for specific region. So they are region specific. So they can be copied across regions. So how we copy an EBS snapshot, similarly we can copy an AMI from one region to another region. So you can launch EC2 instance from a public AMI, that is which are provided by AWS. So we have used Amazon Linux AMI while creating an instance, right? So they are public AMIs that is provided by the AWS, and you can create your own AMI. Okay, so you can make your own AMI, and there are some AMIs which are available in the AWS marketplace. So if you want, you can buy it, or if you have an AMI, you can try to sell it on Amazon marketplace, AMI marketplace. Okay, so how this AMI works? So just try to remember for simple understanding. What we can say is, so a snapshot is a image or a backup for a particular EBS volume, right? Okay, similarly an AMI is a snapshot or backup for a particular complete EC2 instance. So remember it like this. Okay, so it will be easy to understand. EC2 is a complete, an AMI is a complete image or the backup image for, or a snapshot for complete EC2 instance. Okay, so what this AMI process is, what we'll do is we'll start an EC2 instance and we'll do some customizations in this EC2 instance, and then we'll stop that instance, and then we'll create an AMI from that EC2 instance. This will also create an EBS snapshots for which the EC2 instance is created, and we'll launch a new instance from our AMI. Okay, so what we'll do is, so here we have kept some notes for while creating a new instance, right? So we'll go and take that nodes which we have created in instance. Okay, so here we have this script, so I'll take this and keep it, I'll save this in a file. So we'll be using this now, so we'll see how we'll use this in AMI. Okay, so now I have this. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll start an EC2 instance and we'll take an AMI for this particular EC2 instance, and we'll build a same EC2 instance from that AMI. So say here, like here we have a US East 1A region where we have an instance. Okay, we can create an AMI for that particular instance, and that AMI is saved here. So if you want to launch the same EC2 instance with same configuration in other availability zone, so you can create it from the AMI. So you can launch a new instance from the AMI. So now what we'll do is we'll go to the AWS console here. So first what we'll do is I'll remove all these EBS volumes. So this is my charges, so I'll delete these volumes and delete it, and we'll also delete this snapshot, so we are not using this. Okay, so now I have cleared all my instances, so I have terminated all my instances. I have no volumes here. I have, so if you see what is AMIs here, so here we have AMIs. Okay, so when you try to create a instance, right? So when you try to create an instance here, we can see this AMI. So we are using, like in the previous classes we have used Amazon Linux AMI. So this is a public AMIs which are provided by the AWS. So you can also browse for more AMIs. So these are some AMIs. So why we are using this AMIs is, so I want to give you a brief description on this. So for example, I am running a Hadoop like a big data related server in my AWS. I want to create a big data related AMI or big data related server. So I am launching an instance. So there I have logged in and I installed Python, and I installed some other software. I installed database in that particular EC2 instance, and I installed like a couple of softwares, and I configured all the softwares in that EC2 server, and I made it ready. Okay, so if I want the same particular setup of EC2 server in another region, okay, so what I need to do is, again I need to launch a instance in another region or the same region, and again I need to do all the setup setup installations and all the Python installations, database installations, and all the configurations. Again I need to do that in the second instance also. So instead of doing that, what we can do is we'll create an AMI for that particular EC2 instance, and we'll create a new EC2 instance from that particular copy, so that in my second instance I don't need to do all the installations and all configurations. Those will be exactly copied from the image or AMI of my first EC2 instance. Okay, so here what I'll do is I'll go and launch an instance here. So I'll say it as my first instance EC2 1 EC2 -1. Okay, so here I have AMIs. So for now, first I'll do is I'll create a Amazon Linux AMI. So I'll keep all this same, and here we have a T2 micro. I'll leave this same. I'll use my existing key pair. So I'll use my existing security group, launch wizard one. So I am creating a instance with 8 GB disk. Okay, so here if you see, if you go to advanced and if you click on this volumes, so here see, as this is the root volume, so it is showing delete on termination as yes. So if I want to add a new volume here, so if I click on add a new volume, so see here by default, so it is the delete on termination is no. So that means when you terminate this instance, only your root volume will be deleted. So all the other volumes which you add after this root volume, so for them the delete on termination flag will be always checked as no. Okay, so this is something we have seen in the storage classes in the previous slides. So for now I'm not doing anything, so just to show you I've opened it. So I'm creating only one volume which is of 8 GB, and here in the advanced part what we'll do is, so here we'll take this code. So instead of putting all this, I'll leave this last line and I'll do till here, I'll install till here. So here what it will do is, so it will update my operating system, so it will install my HTTP server, so it will install a web server and it will start the web server. So that means by when the instance launch, it will be ready like something, it will install the web server in it. So I'm not keeping the last line here, so I'm not creating any web page here in this website. So here what I'll do is I'll launch an instance. So we'll go to the instance page. So here I can see my instance is getting ready, it's still pending. So I'll refresh this, and meanwhile we'll see this volume. So a volume is created. Okay, so here if I go to instances, so now my instance is running. So I'll take this public IP and I'll go here and I'll paste it. So it's still not working, I think it still need to initialize. So what is, it's the instance is running, but it is in the background, it is installing the web server, so it is still initializing. So we need to wait for a few seconds. Anytime the web server, so see, so now see here the web server is working. So now we have not created any web page, we have just installed the web server. Okay, we have just installed the HTTP server in my first instance, and I have not created anything like hello world page. Okay, so now this EC2 one has a web server installed in it. So now what I have done, say like I have done another few more configurations in it. So installing the web server, installing Python, putting some required documents and all, I can do this. Okay, so now this particular instance have web server installed in it, so I need to run another web server and other instance with the same web server. So instead of creating and doing all this same, what I can do is I can create a AMI for this. That means I can create a copy of this first instance and I can create a duplicate instance same as this first instance so that AMI. So what we can do is we can select this now, and here in the actions, in the image and templates options, you have an option called create image. So if you click on this, it will ask for this, and it's a my EC2 one instance AMI. So I'll create an instance like this. If you want a description, I can add a description. So here it is saying no reboot. So if you enable this, so it will not reboot your EC2 instance, and still it will take a snapshot keeping the first instance running. So if you enable this, it will stop the our instance, and it will take a snapshot, or it will take a image, and then it will again start my instance. So I'll keep this enable, and so see here, so for the EC2 instance from which we are taking, okay, this AMI, it has an EBS volumes attached to it, so it is 8 GB volume. Okay, and it is saying like it is enabled for delete on termination. So while creating a new image, if you want to change the size of this hard disk, or if you change this flag, you can change this while creating an AMI. and I'll leave all this as it is, and I'll create an image. So okay, so now if you go to AMIs, so here see my EC2 one AMI is getting created and the status is pending, so it is still creating the AMI. So the creation of AMI takes a bit time because it is completely taking an image of my EC2 complete instance, so including the root volume, okay, including all the configurations, the operating system in it. So it is taking all the backup of all the EC2 instance. So meanwhile we'll go to this volumes and we'll go to the snapshots. So see here, so while creating an AMI, it is taking a snapshot of our EC2 instance volume automatically. So I have took the backup of only this instance, right? But this instance has an EBS volume connected to it. So what it will do is it will take the snapshot of this image of this volume automatically, and it keep it in the snapshots part. Okay, so here if you see the description, so it is saying created by create image. So it is created when you are creating image of this particular instance for this particular AMI. Okay, on this creation of this AMI for this instance, we are creating this EBS volume snapshot. Okay, so it is not created by us, it is created automatically from the AMI. So we are going to this AMI. So now this AMI is available. So what I can do is I can create a new instance from this copy and I can launch it. Okay, so I will do is here we have an option called launch instance. So either we can do it here, so we can create launching from here, or so if I go back and go to my instances, and if you click on launch instance now, so here my EC2 instance from AMI instance 2. So this is I am creating from my AMI. So here if you go, and here there is a option called my AMIs. So if you click this and if you select on owned by me AMIs, so here you will see my EC2 one AMI. So the images which we created in our EC2 console will be shown here. So and if you change the region here, so you need to understand this, if I change the region and if I, so it will be automatically refreshed, and if I go to my instances, so here I cannot see all these instances in this region, and I cannot see the AMI, and I cannot see the snapshots because it is done in the other region. Okay, so but still if you want to make, so if I launch and try to launch an instance and I click here, so here I have no defined AMIs, so we cannot. Okay, so these AMIs are region specific. So if you create an AMI in a single region, so it will be bound to that region only. So I cannot use that AMI in another region. So if you want to do that, what you can do is you can go to Asia, this Pacific, your region, and here so you will get an option like my AMIs. So what we can do is in the AMIs part, so if you select this AMI and if you go to this action, so here we have a copy AMI. So if you click on this, you can move this particular, okay, AMIs from one region to another region. So now what I want to do is I want to move this to my Singapore region. So because I want to create the same type of instance in my other Singapore region, so first I need to copy this AMI here. So I'll click on copy. So it will take a minute, so it will take few minutes because it need to copy from one region to another region. So if I go to my Singapore region, so I'm in the same page of AMI. See now my EC2 EMI is in my Singapore region. So if I want to create an instance here in Singapore region, so here till now we have no instances in Singapore region. So if I click on launch instance, now see I have an option called my AMIs, and here I can select that AMI. Okay, so this is how we can move a particular EC2 instance image AMI, Amazon Mission image, from one region to another region, and you can create the same EC2 instance in one region and you can copy that and you can create an instance in another region. So this is how we will do this. So I'll remove this particular AMIs in this region. So if you forget it, it may charge you. So it need to be finished. So okay, we'll do that after this session. Like we'll go back to our region. So here now we'll create another instance from this AMI, so that we can go to launch instance. So my EC2 instance from AMI. Okay, so I'm going to my AMIs. So here I'm going to select this particular AMI which I have created. I'll keep all this same. I'll keep this key pair. Okay, I'll use my existing security group only. So here I'll keep this storage. I'll keep the storage also same. And here in the advanced details, what we'll do is now, so instead of keeping all this, okay, all this code, what we'll do is we'll take only the first 3 lines and the last line. So why we are doing this is, so here this part is already installed in the first instance, and this HTTP server and all are already installed in the server. So just we are changing a file. So we are just creating a file in the web server, and if everything goes fine, like we need to get all this by default from the AMI. So we'll see, and we need to check, like we have one instance and with this T2 micro, and we have one security group, and everything is fine. We'll click on launch instance. Okay, now we'll go to our instances. So if you go here, so there's another instance. Now we are getting it. So here if you go, so if you see the first instance, and if you see the Amazon mission image, so here if you can see, so the Amazon mission image location here, the AMI name, so this is my AMI name. So that is from the AMI which we got it from the AWS. So when we created it starting, we got it from the AWS default AMI. So if you see this instance which we create now, so here see the AMI name is my AMI. So this is our predefined AMI. So we created this instance from this particular AMI. So now my instance is running and it is about to initialize. So if I take this IP address, and if I go here and if I paste it, see now, so we didn't write any code to install the web server, but still it installed the web server and it is running the image. Like we have only created this page just to create it. We have just created this index page, but we haven't installed any HTTP server. We have not started it. We have not launched the server, but still we got this web server in this EC2 instance because we copied this particular instance from this and we created this. So we got all the configurations. We got all the configurations from this first instance to the second instance. Okay, so similarly this is mostly useful when you create a clusters or something. So if you want to create a cluster or a multi-scaling or availability zones or like auto-scaling groups, so there you need to keep all your EC2 instance same. So say like if you want to launch like 10 EC2 instances with same configuration, okay, so then what we'll do is we'll create a one instance and we'll configure all the softwares and all the settings in that EC2 instance, and we can create a AMI. So from that AMI you can create any number of EC2 instances. Okay, so this is also one of the powerful future of EC2. So in real time, like what we do is, like in our office work, what we'll do is, so we will try to run some web services. If you got a new project and if you want to run that in a new server, so what we'll do is we'll have a particular AMIs for all the requirements. So if you want to run a Node.js project, an Angular project, so there you need to install Node.js and you need to install Angular CLI, Okay, so everything will be installed, and we'll take that image and we'll keep it in the AMIs. So whenever we got a new project and new website that need to run in a new server, we'll go to AMIs and we'll check the configuration settings and for which type of EC2 instance is good to run this, and we'll go to that AMI and we'll create a we'll launch an instance from that AMI, so that all the configurations is already done. Only thing is we'll just keep our Node.js or Angular code in that and we'll run that. Okay, so if you want to run a database server, so what we'll do is we'll install all the database related softwares and configurations and settings in one instance, and we'll create a AMI. So if you want a same EC2 instance with the MySQL database again, so we'll go to AMIs and we'll create an instance from there. So now I no need to worry about the installation of MySQL, so it is already predefinedly coming from the AMI. Okay, so this is how the AMIs are used. So these are very important in the real-time work. So for the exam perspective it is important, but in the real-time work, if you want to work as an AWS solutions architect, or if you want to work on AWS to create this instance and all as a network administrator, so these AMIs will be very useful for them, so they will save a lot of time for them. Okay, so this is all about AMIs. So what I'll do is I'll check all these and I'll terminate these instances. Okay, so don't forget to terminate or stop the instances after creating, because if you leave it so you will be exceeding your free time limit and you may charge. Okay, so I'm deleting this and I'm going to my AMIs. I'll delete this AMI also. So deregister AMI. So this is something like a delete. So I delete AMI. So I have already also created AMI in my Singapore region, so I need to remember that. And here also I'll check this, and so I'll deregister my AMI. Okay, so this is all about the AMIs in the storage part. So now, so we'll see. So there is another option called EC2 Instant Store. Okay, so EBS volumes are network drives with good but limited performance. Okay, so as they are network drives, there's a little latency for the EBS volumes. Okay, if you need high performance hard disk, so we'll use EC2 Instant Store. So why we are using this instant store other than EBS is they have better input and output performance. So EC2 Instant Store lose their storage if they stopped. Okay, that means this storage which is in the EC2 instance source is ephemeral, similarly like a RAM. So if you stop your instance, you will be losing all the data in your EC2 instance store. So it is not like EBS volume. So EBS volume, if you stop your instance, still it holds all your data in it, and if you restart your instance, and it will bring back all your data. So but in instant store, so it acts something like a RAM, so it has an ephemeral storage. So when you stop your EC2 instance, all the data in the EC2 instance will be lost. So where we will use this is it's good for buffers, cache or scratch data or temporary content. So if you risk to lose your data if your hardware fails, then you can use this instant store. So mostly if you are maintaining any backup or applications for using instant store, then then it is preferable to use your EC2 instance. And so if you are using EC2 instance, all the backup and replications part you need to take responsibility of it, because if you stop the instance, you will be losing this data. Okay, so how this EC2 instance is different from EBS volume is, so EBS volume we have learned they are connected to the EC2 instance through network. Okay, so but this EC2 instance physically they are connected to the server, so they are physical hard drives which are connected to the servers directly. Okay, so as they are having a direct connection to the server, physical connection to the server, so they are more fast when compared to the network drives. Okay, so but if there is any hardware failure in EC2 instance, then again there is a chance of losing this data. So we cannot detach and attach it to other instance like we have done for that EBS volumes. So if you connect it to one EC2 instance, then it is bound to that EC2 instance only. So we cannot move it from one EC to other EC2 because they are physically connected to the servers. But these EBS volumes, they are connected through network, so they can anytime we can plug out and plug in to any instance. And the data in the instance store is ephemeral, that is, if you stop the EC2 instance, you will be losing this data. So that is the important point. And so we are coming to the types of volumes. So EBS types of volumes. So there are four types of different types of EBS volumes. So one is GP, so that is called a general purpose SSD, and that balances the price and performance for a wide variety of workloads. So whenever you create a new instance in EC2, so by default you will get this GP, general purpose SSDs. And we have other called IO, so input and output operations. So these are used for the high performance SSD volumes for massive for the mission critical low latency or high throughput workload. So if you are using any database clusters, or if you want doing any AI models, creating any AI models or machine learning things, so you need to have more input and output, okay, performance. So at that time, for those instances, we'll be using this IO 1 and 2. And we have other thing called ST, which are similarly like a hard drives. So they are low cost hard drives. So these are SSDs. So you know the difference between SSD and HDD. So SSD is very fast when compared to HDD. So this HDD are something which we are using in our local PCs. So in the old PC now also we are getting SSDs in our laptop, but if you go like 3 to 4 years or 5 years back, so all our laptops are having HDD volumes only, which is very slow when compared to SSD. So they are low in cost. Okay, there's a low cost HDD volume designed for frequently access throughput intensive works. So if you don't want to get a data very quick like SSD, you can go for this HDD just for a storage purpose. So there is other thing called SC1. It is also a hard disk, but it is similar low cost HDD volume designed for less frequent access workload. So this is for the frequent access workloads, and this is for the less frequent access workloads. So mostly we are using these two for the EC2 instances. These are something like a storage drives. Okay, so EBS volumes are categorized in size, throughput, okay, and IOPS per second. So based on the size of the volume, or based on the throughput, or based on the input operation per second IOPS, okay, based on this, so these EBS volumes are categorized. So when in doubt, always consult an AWS document. So whenever you are creating an EC2 instance, if you have any doubt of taking, so if you are confused of taking GP2 or IO, so it is better to go with the AWS documentation, so you can understand like for which requirement you need to take which volume. Okay, so and here, as I said, only GP2 and IO, these two devices, two volumes are only can be used as the boot volumes for our EC2 instances. We cannot use ST and SC hard disks for the boot because they are very low and they make the operating system very slow. Okay, so only GP2 and IO. This is also one of the important exam questions. So if you want to create a EC2 instance, so which type of volume will be considering for your as your root volume? So we will be taking either GP2 or IO. So if you are using a normal web load, so which is preferable? So we'll choose for GP2. So if you are using a high database, then which type of volume you will be selecting? You will get a question something like that, and you can answer like we will be using IO 1. So because it has more input and output hours per second, it has high throughput, and it has high IOPS. So we'll use IO for the database related instances. Okay, so coming to this general purpose, so we'll see a brief on this general purpose SSDs. So they are cost effective storage, and they have low latency. So system boot volumes, they'll be using a system boot volume, so virtual desktop for development and test environments, and they will get them from 1 GB to 16 TB. So we can create a volume from 1 GB to 16 TB in this GP, so general purpose SSDs. So there are two types, GP2 and GP3. So this is something like a version change. So GP3 is the latest version. So as their latest version, they have baseline of almost 3000 IOPS per second, so input operation per second, and they have high throughput of 125 MB per second. So they can increase the IOPS to 16,000 and throughput to 1000 MB. So if you can also boost this IOPS using AWS console. So based on the usage, they can increase the uh, IOPS of this particular volume from 3000 to 16,000. Okay, so similarly in GP2, they are small GP2 volumes, and they have like little bit less than 3000 IOPS. Okay, so the size of and the volume of IOPS, the size of the volume and IOPS are linked, and max IOPS is 16,000. So you can get only max IOPS of 16,000. So here we have another count like 3 IOPS per GB, means like we will get 5334 GB. We are at the max IOPS when we are at the max IOPS. Okay, so just remember that GP2 and GP3 are two different generations of general purpose SSDs, and they are used for this particular boot volumes, virtual disk and developments. So all these numbers you need to remember. So this is for the advanced certification. So just you need to keep a high level idea of all this GP2 volume. And when coming to the hard disks, so they cannot be used as boot volumes as we discussed. So they can we can take it like minimum of 125 GB, and we can take it up to 16 TB in a single volume. Okay, so they have throughput outmax HDDs which are used for big data warehouse and log processing. So here we are storing this particular data. So just we need to store this data, that's why you're using this HDD. So the max throughput is only like 500 MB per second, and the max IOPS is 500. Okay, so here we also have a cold HDD, which is SCL1. So for data that is infrequently accessed, so if you have any less frequently accessed data, you can use this HDD for this. They are cheap when compared to GP and IO volumes. So scenarios where low cost is important, we will use this HDD, and the max throughput is only 250 MB per second, and max IOPS is 250. Okay, so and here we have another thing called EBS multi-attach. So here what we can do is, in the previous slide we see an EBS volume can be only attached to one EC2 instance, but with this EBS multi-attach, what we can do is we can attach this particular EBS volume to so any number of instances. So we can connect it, as the name says, we can connect it to multiple instances. Okay, so attach the same EBS volume to multiple EC2 instances in the same availability zone. Again, we have a condition like this can be only attached to instances which are available only in the same availability zone. Each instance has a full read and write permissions to the high performant volume. Okay, so they can access this particular EBS volume parallelly, and they'll be having the same speed of all the IOPS performance from the each instance. Okay, so where we will use this is, we will archive high applications availability in the clustered Linux applications, and applications must be managed in the concurrent write operations. Okay, so you need, like in these use cases, we will be using this multi-attach. So it will be like up to 16 EC2 instances at a time. So you can connect to maximum of 16 instances at a time. But all these particular EC2 instance, file systems, they should be of like cluster aware. So they will be of same. All these EC2 instances are of same like file systems. So they cannot be of different file systems. So they will be of the same file system. Okay, so this EBS volume multi-attach, like EBS multi-attach and all that, it's just you need to have an idea on this. But because these are like recently added in EC2 in AWS, so you just need to have an idea about this. You don't need to go and practice this, just know what is an EBS multi-attach is. So if you want to attach a single volume to all your EC2 instances, then you can attach EBS multi-attach. Okay, so and there are only of IO and IO2 family, so there are no general purpose okay, volumes which you can attach as multi-attach for EC2 instances. Okay, so this is all about EC2 instance storage. So all the instance storage part we have covered today. So we have seen how to create volumes, how to create EC2 EBS volumes and detach, or if you create a snapshots, how to create AMIs and how to create instances from them. Okay, so I have seen all the storage related part of EC2 instance. So mainly you need to keep, you need to remember, so what is a snapshot, what is an AMI, so what is an EBS volumes. So I'll give this, like most of this theory part is also enough from these slides, so just try to keep this and remember this. So this will be enough for the associate exam. Okay, fine. If you have any doubts, so you can ask me, or else we'll end this session.